This project is titled Tool Holder 2. It has no symmetry that we can take advantage of, and actually has some fairly annoying geometry that we'll just have to make some workarounds for. First thing I'm going to do is make a cutout of the big features of the block. So I'll start with the front plane and put my origin in the lower left corner. And I want to use millimeters, make sure that I'm in millimeters, and looking at my units, I am. So I'm going to start off in the lower left corner, and you'll see why when we get back to the end. Okay, bring it up here, over, up. Again, I'm not all that concerned about making perfectly accurate lengths, and when I get to this point, I want to make the curve, and I want to make it tangent. So I'm going to come out here, go back, and then coming back out, I should get a curve, which is nice. Now I just need to make a whole bunch of dimensions, and this center for this curve is actually 3 millimeters off of this edge. So I need to make sure that that's accurate. Make a 32 millimeter radius there. Oh boy, that looks like trouble. Oh. The overall height is 63, so that should help out our curve. That center here is 35 millimeters up, and so on. And this is 5 millimeters. This dimension here is 32. And this height is not given. This height is given as 16. And this distance as 35. And this overall width from left to right is given as 98 millimeters. That should be our base outline. So I'm just going to extrude that sketch, and I want to switch directions. I want the front plane to be our front. So I just have to click that one button, and the depth overall is 41 millimeters. And there's our first feature. Now I'm going to try to do this from the difficult to the less difficult. So there are some details in this region that are particularly troublesome. It looks to me that this area here, this cutout, should be a revolved cut. So that's how I'm going to use it. I'm going to click on this face, right click on it, and go to Sketch. I'm going to face it straight on. And for a revolved cut, again, one of the key things is a center line. And I can hit Escape to get out of the center line. And I'm going to just make an outline of this cut. And it's got a couple steps in here. So down here over like this. And the dimensions of this are depth here of 13 and a depth here of 5, and this is given in a radius. So I'm just going to go from here to the center line, and the radius is 25.4. Uh-oh, look, our line moved. It was supposed to be on here. I didn't make a relation to it, but that's okay. We can take care of that in just a second. And this is given as a diameter of 14.25. Now we could say, well, we've got to take half of that to make the radius, but if we just put that dimension on the other side, oh look, it comes out as a diameter. So put that there, make it 14.25, and the last one is here, and this needs to be a diameter of 22. So again, I could put it here, try to make a radius, or just put it over here, and it automatically knows that I'm trying to make a diameter. Okay, I will hit the escape key to get out of dimensioning mode, and click on this, hold my control key down, click on this edge, and make them collinear, and everything turns black and exactly as I want it. Okay, done with my sketch, but it's already pre-selected. If you happen to click out here and wonder what to do next, just click on your sketch, and then go to Revolved Cut. And there's our donut shape. It's going to do a 360-degree cut about that one line. And here it is. Part of the problem here is that by our very first extrusion, we cut out part of what's supposed to be in this location. So I'm going to go in, make a very simple extruded boss base using this as the plane and a circle right here and going out to this point. But notice how, again, there's not a relation between this and the edge. It just took it as for granted. But we should make sure that we have a defined relationship between this circle and that edge. Instead of using a blind extrusion, I'm going to go up to just this surface here. It figured out I wanted to go that direction, so it went there, and I'm good. Now I said we needed to redefine that sketch to make sure it's on that edge. So there's a couple different ways of doing that. See that minus sign indicates that the sketch is not fully defined. So I can right click on the sketch and go up here to edit sketch, or I can right click on the feature and go to edit sketch. Either one will get me to the same place. So I'm going to click on that sketch of that circle. So I'm just going to move this edge out. click on that edge, hold the control key down, click on that one, and now it gives me the relations that I'm looking for. They could be equal, concentric, but instead I want co-radial. I want them to have the same center and the same radius right there. And although the yellow doesn't show it, this does. And so now I have my little knob that I had cut out before. Okay, now there is a little lip on the bottom here that is hard to work with sometimes, but just follow along and it shouldn't be that difficult. We need to extrude from this surface back, and I'm going to look at that front face, and we can use a lot of these other commands up here, but I'm going to start with line going from here up, and then I'm going to escape. I don't need that anymore. I'm going to use the convert entities, and I'm going to use this edge right here. There we go. So I have my second line out of 4. Third thing I'm going to use is a center point arc, and I'm going to run over this circle, and I found the center point of this circle right here, and I'm going to go down to this point, and sometimes the arc comes out the wrong direction, so you just got to swing around. There that is. Going to hit escape, and I'm going to make another center point arc. And this one's going to be right above there, right across from there. And I'm going to go from this point over to here, and then hit escape again. Now, this arc needs to be better defined. Let's see, can I move this around? Oh yeah, I can move this all around. That's not what I want. I want to make sure that that point is immediately to the right of that point. So we want those horizontally fixed. Okay, but still not sure where it is to the left and to the right. So I'm going to take that point, hold the control key down, click on that edge, and we're going to make them coincident. So that point is located somewhere in space along that line. Now, still not quite sure where this thing ends. We can move it back and forth, up and down. We just need radius, which is given as 27. Last but not least is this little edge. If you've got problems with your sketch and it won't extrude like you want it to, maybe there's something very small that's hanging off of one of your sketches, so you have to zoom in and maybe delete it. In this case, we could do a variety of things. We can grab it, go down and see if it sticks, and it did in this case. Could even use one of the trim entities. And here they give example of power trim. Just drag it across and boom, it immediately trims to that edge. So my sketch is complete. Notice that it is a full loop, and I only had to use one dimension. And it's going to be blind at 8 millimeters. Oh no, went the wrong direction. We weren't checking our preview. No problem. Gonna right click on it, edit feature, and just click the other direction. Click my green check mark, and no fear. No fear. Those were some of the more difficult parts. Now let's do the easy stuff. And I'm going to start with the hole that's over here on the right hand side. One of the issues with the hole is that it does not have a vertical dimension of its own. It shares a plane with the center of this feature, this feature, this feature, this feature, and this feature. Obviously, this is a very important plane for this to be on, so I think it's important enough to make our own new reference plane. So we go up to Reference Geometry, click on Plane, and it's going to be through this line, and for our second reference, we want it to be parallel to the top plane. So we make sure we click on Parallel here, and here's our plane. Good. Now we should go and start sketching on this plane, and can simply make an easy circle. That, dimension it as 9 millimeters and 11 millimeters from the edge, and it needs to be right on that plane. If this plane hadn't shown up, we could select it from here and just click on Coincident, and there it is. And this hole goes all the way through. So select our sketch, do an extruded cut, and it's going through all very simply. There it is. Okay, now that I'm done with this plane, I'm going to hide it. So right click here and go to hide. Make sure you don't suppress it, because then this hole will also be suppressed because the hole is dependent on that plane. Now let's click here again. We're going to sketch. Bring this down here. Go out, in, and then back out again, and we have that curve show up. Need to escape out of making that line. Now we can dimension it. 22 millimeters. And the center it's also on that same plane. But that's okay. I can still go find it in my model tree, and I'm still in dimensioning mode. So I'm going to hit escape, click on the center, hold my control key, click on the plane, make them coincident, and I've got what I want there. Now it's still blue, and that's because the point is not on this edge yet. So I like that one. Click on the point, hold the control key down, click on the edge, make them coincident. Now this is all black. However, it's a good idea to make it a closed loop, because otherwise SolidWorks only wants to make it a through all feature. So now it's easy enough to close up that loop. And I'm going to make it a cut, and it's going to be 9 millimeters deep. Okay. It just remains to do the top and rear features. So from here, going to sketch, a circle right there, dimension it as 11 millimeters, and it's going to be 9 millimeters from this edge. And it is 16 millimeters from this edge. And it is also going to be through all. There it is. 2 more to go. On here, I'm going to sketch, and this time I'm going to rotate things so I'm looking straight down. And I'm going to sketch a rectangle. Oh, it looks like it grabbed it from the center, so I'm going to escape out, use rectangle again. And simple dimensions here, 51 and 13. And this is also through all instead of blind. Okay. Last but not least, we need to make a chamfer right here. Now this isn't a 45-degree chamfer, it's a 30-degree chamfer. So we need to make sure we've got all the dimensions right. So go up here to fillet, and underneath fillet is chamfer. All we need to do is select this edge, and it shows the chamfer. However, the default is usually 45. It just came in 30. And the question is, what distance here? And it's 14. Now it came in correctly in this case. It's 14 down from the top, but very often it may come in the other direction. So just need to grab that arrow. Now it's highlighted. Click it, and it will change direction. So now this is the 14 millimeter dimension. I'm going to go back here, click it, and it chooses the correct direction. There it is. So that's tool holder 2. Now notice that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus a plane, 6, 7, 8, 9 features plus a plane. Through a judicious use of multiple sketches, say, or using the plane, one can actually make this in fewer features. So I did that already. I started off pretty much the same way. But notice how I put this hole in right off the bat. So I saved one feature that way. I did the same cut revolve, and I put the same knob on here, and the little lip. Cut this out. Cut that out. But notice how that cut included the circle all at once. So I saved another feature that way. And finally I did the chamfer. I think this extrusion had a bit of a problem. Need to modify the center. this should have a common center as this. In fact, it should be co-radial. And it should be okay now. So here I was able to save a couple of steps by extruding the circles at the same time as I extruded some of the other dimensions. I was able to save a couple of features by extruding the holes at the same time that I extruded some of the other details. Going back to this particular one, some of the techniques we used were a reasonably complex sketch to start off with, and then a cut revolve to make these features, and then a quick extrusion for that. And the lip here was created using some helpful sketching techniques, using edges and co-radialities, and making sure we had the same planes over here. And we only used one dimension on that feature. That's the radius here. Then we utilized a plane so that we could make our next couple of cuts. That hole and that cut, they share that plane with some of these other features, and it may come in handy when you assemble it with other parts. And then finally these two cuts, and we looked at the chamfer feature and how you can utilize it effectively based on what your requirements are.